Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa.
Promise you joy in the mystery.
Dr. Marissa, also known as the Asian Oprah. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, laugh, love, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Faye.
And welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on NBC News Radio, KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher, Audible, Amazon Music, and more. And, of course, on my free subscribe YouTube channel where you can get my past 533 shows over the past 490 consecutive weeks. But who's counting? So grateful for all the people who support this show, including, of course, Fred Lundgren, my station owner, Mark Westwood, the general manager and station manager, Rick Rule and Mike Lundgren, who operate my back room. And of course, last but not least, all of you listeners, thank you so much. I just got a little bird told me that I am actually, after 3 months in the morning show slot, the #1 show on the AM window across the Inland Empire. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And this station is the #1 talk news in the IE as well. So a little bit of applause for that. And why do I do that? Because we've been talking about how do I feel better right now? That being the question of the day, of the week, of the month. And every day I give you a little tip. And last week I talked about self-approval as a very important tool in your Happy 88 toolkit so you can feel better right now. Because come on, folks, if you can't approve of yourself, how the fork do you think other people are going to approve of you? So therein lies one of the most simple and difficult foundations for happiness. And why is your happiness important to me? I'm on my Happy 88 mission. Someone on social media, I said, why do I use 88? And they knew the answer right away, because I'm on a Happy 88 mission. 88 million more happy people in the next 8 years. So that's why I do the tips. But before I get to the happy tip for today, as per usual, I've been giving you some fun facts about the day that you're in. And today is September 20th, National Fried Rice Day. And that's super cool for a couple of reasons. One is I make a mean fried rice. It's a family recipe, ancient Chinese secret that's no longer a secret. And if you go and Google Dr. Marissa fried rice recipe rehab, it will come up. I actually got to do a reality show. I know, with my daughters who will be, who continue to be extremely embarrassed about that whole thing. But it was a great show. It was on CBS, Recipe Rehab, and they did a makeover of my spring rolls and fried rice. And if you go on TikTok, one of my highest, I think it's at 600 some views. I can't believe my TikTok channel is kind of blowing up. I just got 1,000 views on a barbecue and 1,200 views on my paddleboarding. So go to Dr. Marissa Happy 8, I believe it is, or just Dr. Marissa, you'll find me. But that there I teach you what I do to make my fried rice. So yay, happy Fried Rice Day. It's also National Gibberish Day. National Pepperoni Pizza Day, National Punch Day, National Rum Punch Day. See a trend there. National String Cheese Day. And last but not least, Respect for the Aged Day. Apparently that's the third Monday in September. And now your Happy 88 tip on how to feel better right now. And the answer to that comes from a question that I was asked. Actually, I get asked this a lot because I do interviews on other people's show and on major network TV. And some people know that my best-selling book, 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are, has an 8 in it. And network TV, especially when I was on tour with my book, 8 Ways to Happiness from Wherever You Are. And people will say, the interviewer usually says, of all the 8, or before I get the book, can you give me the number one way to be happy? And my first response is usually, you have to get the book. I'm not going to give that away. But I've come up with a new one, which actually is so true for my life and constitutes today's Happy 88 tip. How do you feel better right now? Have what you want and want what you have. Now, some of you will say, well, I don't have everything that I want. And we've talked about you can be happy even before you have everything you want. And remember the law of attraction last week, that if you continue thinking about what you don't have, that'll keep what you do want to have from coming to you. But one of the things that robs many people of happiness is not appreciating what they actually have. So that's the second part of that, having what you want and wanting what you have. And think about the last time you said, oh my God, I really want that outfit, pair of shoes, car, house, person, and you say, that will make me happy. And then you have it for 2 hours, a day, 2 weeks, 2 years, and somehow you're not happy because you don't want what you already have. If you make a conscious decision and say, I am really going to be one with and appreciate what I have right now. For example, open your closet and instead of saying, I have nothing to wear, I want you to find one item that you remember really wanting. And I want you to look at that and remember the feeling you had when you really wanted that. And isn't it wonderful that you actually have it? Now, don't let your mind go to the fact that it might not fit anymore. That's another, that'll be tomorrow's tip. Just focus and stay with appreciating that you actually do have it. Same thing with your car, same thing with your house, same thing with the donut that you know you shouldn't be eating. Why waste all that yummy time with the donut beating yourself up about you shouldn't be eating it when you're eating it? If you're going to eat something that you shouldn't be eating it, forget about criticizing it or yourself. Just be one with the donut for the moment and enjoy it. Want what you have. Want what you have. Enjoy and appreciate what you have. Got it? That's today's Happy 88 tip and answer to the question of the day. How do I feel better right now? And when we come back, I'm going to play a very important on-location interview that highlights the sad reality of what's going on with our homeless veterans. That when we come back to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Faye.
And welcome. You are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere on this NBC News radio channel. You can go to kcaaradio.com, hit the listen now button, or you can free subscribe to my YouTube channel, Dr. Marissa, and you'll get a free wake-up call at 8 a.m. to tune in to the show about hope and happiness. And most of you know that I do some beat reporting in my not-so-spare time, but I pick up really great. And most of you know that I actually do some beat reporting that allows me to find good news and solutions that are out there in the community with our politicians, with organizations, profit and nonprofit, that balance out all the bad news that's out there. So today's no exception. In fact, I'm going to have him as a guest on the show. But in the meantime, I wanted you to hear what he had to say about what's going on with homelessness and the veterans from my On Location report.
Dr. Marissa reporting live. You know me as the Asian Oprah, and I try to cover things that are good about people, what's good about our community, and unfortunately this is not good about our community. We had a fatal death in this homeless encampment in West LA, and the result is, you know, just attention again to the crime of our veterans coming home and having no place to go. And I have someone here, I'd like him to introduce himself and just explain what he's trying to do here so we can help him.
Yes, my name's Rob Reynolds. I'm a veteran myself. I've been involved with helping the homeless veterans out here for the last few years.
And what's going on here today?
So essentially today, just have some people that are going into hotel vouchers and everything, and as they go, taking their tents down. We're also moving some veterans that are in tents that were kind of destroyed and getting them into some newer ones. The ultimate goal is to get everybody housed. Unfortunately, there's just you know, a lot of mess going on with the property behind us. None of these guys should be out here on the sidewalk. They should be on the land behind that fence. This shouldn't be happening at all, and it's just really, it's really unfortunate and disheartening to see that this is what's happening to people who raise their right hand and go and serve their country. Despite all the politics behind war, it's just really no need for this. We have combat veterans out here from Vietnam, Gulf War, Iraq, and Afghanistan, and this is just ridiculous that they're being treated this way.
Absolutely. Now, are you part of an organization that's helping?
So I'm a veteran myself, Iraq.
Thank you.
I also am a member of AMVETS, it's a veteran service organization. Not paid or anything like that.
All volunteer.
Volunteer. This situation just really struck a nerve with me. I don't like seeing this happening to my fellow brothers and sisters.
Aww. And what's your name, sir?
Daniel.
And you served Vietnam War, and it's not pretty today. There's a lot of police here. I guess there was a stabbing or a killing. So what happened?
He's got all the information.
Okay, he's got all the information.
So Daniel served our country. They brought him to a program. They removed, and actually his tent and all belongings were trashed as soon as he left. Within 1 hour of getting to the property they took him to, he realized it was more run like an institution than hospitality. And when you've served our country and then you're required all of these rules that aren't laws but rules, it makes it very difficult. And so of course he came back the very next day, and it continues to have sheriffs and people from the city give fist bumps with no actual help and resources. There's 45 plus veterans that have served anywhere from Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan, and they sleep against a gate that surrounds 388 acres of property, which is 3 times the size of Disneyland. And you can imagine that could house all of the veterans in Los Angeles that sleep on a curb outside with no resources. It's the best hospital, the best resources that are all underutilized, and leave people like Daniel sleeping in a tent
With rats, with gophers, and with squirrels.
There are unused buildings on this property. There is contracts with UCLA, Brentwood High School, where there are non-veterans that use and do things on this property every day while veterans sleep on a tent. Oh, definitely talk to Rob Reynolds, the best man.
Hi. Before I go to you, could you just say and spell your name for me?
Sennett Devermont, S-E-N-N-E-T-T.
And why are you here?
Because this is outrageous. Because it's outrageous and no one should be treated like this, especially people who've served our country. There's no excuse. And the answer is behind the gate. Great. Thank you so much.
We've had, with everything that's happened in Afghanistan, we've had mental health issues that have really started going through the roof. It's been really hard on all the guys, especially the ones that are stuck out here.
Absolutely.
The way the pullout happened and how quickly the Taliban took over, it can feel to a lot of people like, what was the point of us going over there and all these people dying, and now we're in this position. So the last few weeks have been very challenging for everyone, and we did have an issue that happened between two veterans that was really unfortunate. I don't really want to go into too much detail. I knew both of them, but it should have never have happened.
So it happened here in the encampment?
It happened here in the encampment.
This morning?
No, this was yesterday.
Yesterday? Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, it's been a long couple days for me.
Well, thank you for your service all the way around. Yeah, I'll put this on my show for sure. This is going on Monday morning show. So what can we do? I mean, it's a tough one. Like, everybody wants to help, but they don't know how to help, and they shake their heads and say this shouldn't happen. But it seems like we raise money for it, and that doesn't seem to help. And the services that are offered are obviously not enough. What can we do realistically?
I think that, anyone that can reach out to their elected officials and just raise awareness about this. This is the 33rd Congressional District, Congressman Ted Lieu's district. We've been reaching out to him consistently for 2 years. Really kind of just gets pushed back, doesn't pay attention to this situation. It seems a lot of our politicians are more concerned with, answering calls to their wealthy donors and whoever can pay the most money to lobbyists than they are to everyone else. And that's kind of why we're in this position.
Right.
And
so in a perfect world, what would be the solution? The money that would be funded. I'm not sure. I know that part of the problem is there's mentally ill people on the streets that should never have left facilities like Camarillo. I know that part of the issue is veterans who come home and should be greeted with open arms and, applause, and they're not. And we have Veterans Administration, we have Veterans Hospital. It's obviously not working. So if you were given, I don't know, money and the power to make things happen. You're closest to this. You watch this every day. Giving people money doesn't necessarily help. So if you were now appointed, if I had the power, I would, to appoint you in charge, what can be done?
The first thing I'd do is set up emergency shelters on the other side of the fence. I mean, even just temporary, you could bring in those large green army tents that you see, put cots in it, anything to get some consistent same-day services so these guys don't have to be on the street. Because as it stands right now, we don't have that. It's a large bureaucracy, and a lot of the people that show up here, the veterans that show up here, they don't have identification or anything, so we have to go through this whole registration process, and they can't stay on the property until that's completed. So it's an ongoing issue. And additionally, the VA was supposed to deliver around 500 units of housing in 2020. There was a lawsuit that happened where veterans sued the VA for misuse of land. A Principles for Partnership Settlement Agreement came out. The #1 objective was to end veteran homelessness by 2015. 2021.
Yeah, it's not working.
And when COVID hit, they took all the programs and they reduced them to a 50% occupancy. So then we even lost half the bed space there. And every time there's a breakout in any of the programs, they stop admissions, and then you see the population start to grow out here. So it's been hard to get a handle on, and that's why. And there's plenty of room on the other side of that fence to get everybody off the street and something working correctly.
All right. How do we help your organization? What is your organization, and how can we find it and support you?
Well, like I said, I'm with the Veteran Service Organization, AMVETS. Anyone can, go and Google AMVETS and donate to them. They do a lot of good work helping homeless veterans and everything. So I'm very
AMVETS.org.
AMVETS.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. You've really helped me. I came to cover this story for my New York news agency just to take some B-roll, and I had that heart reaction, obviously, and just not knowing. I think a lot of people just don't know what to do, And thank you for your illumination. I obviously want us to be able to end this, because this is absolutely not right.
I couldn't agree with you more. Since I've been involved in this now, 7 veterans that have passed away, and that's always my concern is,
yes,
who am I going to get a phone call about next?
Right.
And how many is it going to take until someone wakes up and does the right thing?
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate that it always takes an adverse reaction to get things done.
Right, right, absolutely. Thank you so much.
And yes, it is sad, and we shake our heads and we think that there's nothing that can be done. But here's an organization that is doing something. So make sure you go check them out, amvets.org, standing for American Vets, and volunteer, donate, hashtag be the change. Instead of shaking your head and throwing up your hands and leaving it to someone else's issue or problem, let's see what we can do. And when we come back for the rest of this show, I'm going to be playing a really interesting interview and spotlighting my guest who came on not that long ago, but because his movie referencing and his movie part on The Eyes of Tammy Faye Bakker, which just hit the box office, is doing quite well, I understand, getting an 83% on people enjoying the movie. Jessica Chastain, who you may remember from Molly's Game or The Help, great actress. The movie's called The Eyes of Tammy Faye. It takes a really super interesting look at the life of Tammy Faye Bakker, who was the wife of the TV evangelist. And she did a landmark interview on the PTL network with my guest, Pastor Steve Pieters. And actually, that original interview is so moving. It's on YouTube. And when my favorite publicist, Harlan Ball, offered him to me as a guest, and I went and watched that. And I usually don't watch things that are longer than 2 minutes because I, like most people, have the attention span of less than a goldfish, which is 7 seconds. I think the average person these days is 6 seconds, but that's an aside. I actually watched the whole thing, and it brought tears to my eyes and broke my heart wide open. And I said, I have to interview this guy who's in the movie because of the interview, but most importantly, his amazing, fascinating life, not just as an openly gay pastor, but someone who has lived with AIDS for a very long time. So that's the spotlight interview for the rest of this show. I hope you enjoy it. Don't go away. Keep it tuned to Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, the station that leaves no listener behind.
Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Faye.
And we're back, and you are tuned into Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show here on KCAA, AM 1050, FM 102.3, FM 106.5, and streaming everywhere on this NBC News radio channel. And as promised, I'm bringing you the spotlight interview for today. It's the interview with one of the main subject matters of the movie that's out in theaters right now called The Eyes of Tammy Faye. He just got to go to the red carpet opening in New York. He was so cute on his social media, very excited, and I was very happy for him. And so, without further ado, please enjoy.
June 1991, Jane Pauley interviewed him as a gay pastor living with AIDS since 1982. 30 years later, he has defied the odds and is able to currently see how he portrayed how he was portrayed in the upcoming release, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, starring Jessica Chastain, Andrew Garfield, and Vincent D'Onofrio.
D'Onofrio.
Thanks. Randy Havens of TV Stranger Things plays Pieters. The film, due out September 24th, 2021, recreates her historic 1985 interview with Steve, the first time a televangelist gave an affirming interview with a gay man living with AIDS. His interview was a turning point for him, as well as Tammy Faye. Please welcome to my studio, Steve Pieters. So delighted to have you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Marissa. I'm delighted to be here.
Yes, and you are still healthy, living with AIDS.
Yes.
That you acquired. My best friend actually had AIDS as well, but he's in heaven on the other side. Michael Maine, that I went to grad school with. But I'm so glad that I get a chance to talk to you, because you are a pioneer of sorts. Christianity has been pretty clear about condemning gay, homosexuality, any kind of trans, based on their interpretation of what the Bible says. And so how did you even meet Tammy Faye Bakker for her to interview you like that on the PTL network?
Well, her producers had been looking for somebody to interview a person with AIDS, a gay man with AIDS, and they couldn't find anybody in the entire Southeast or East Coast. So apparently they called AIDS Project Atlanta, or AIDS Atlanta, where a friend of mine was the executive director, and he referred them to me. And I said yes, because I was accustomed to doing interviews.
Right. And so when you were contacted, you were asked, did you know that you were not going to be skewered? Because usually a Christian network calling an openly gay person with AIDS would, I don't know, if I were you, I'd be treading carefully.
No, I was nervous about it. And one of the stipulations was that it go out live, so that they couldn't edit it to any nefarious purposes. And I was prepared to, argue about whether a gay person could be a Christian, but she didn't go there. So
I was shocked myself. She in fact went the other 180 degrees and was incredibly gracious, it was funny. She really asked, as a fellow, host producer, I was kind of shocked at some of the questions she asked you. I call it putting the moose on the table, right? My Canadian version of talking about the elephant in the room, right? She asked you, let's see, were people afraid of you because you were gay? Were people afraid of you because you had AIDS? And she just came right out with it. And I have to say, you handled every question with so much grace and so much dignity and so much, I'm going to tear up in a second, because we still live in a world where people hate gays, and people burn down a lifeguard station outside of my building that was painted in rainbow colors. And still, run into gay pride parades and kill people with their car. So this is now, and you came out and were so public, and so the way you were not angry. I guess that's the thing. You were not angry. And so many times we see people righteously or rightfully standing up for their difference, but in such an angry way that it doesn't help people
open up to that difference. So what's wrong with you? No, I'm kidding. What's wrong? I mean, your own, let's go back to the beginning. This is what I'm known for. Let's go right back to the beginning. And those who haven't watched it, you must watch the interview. It's on YouTube. It's free. And I want to actually play as much of it as I can, but then I won't be able to interview you. So
it's 24 minutes long.
Yes, it's a long one, but take me back. So you grew up and you knew you were gay when, and sort of take me through that journey that you took Tammy Faye through.
Yeah. Well, I knew I was gay from as far back as I can remember. I knew that I was more interested in boys than I was in girls. There was a fascination with boys. And my dad was the varsity wrestling coach at Phillips Academy, Andover, which at the time was an all-boys school. And he wrote a letter to my grandparents when I was about 18 months old, in which he said, we're so excited because little Stevie said his first words today. We had the wrestling team down for dinner. And as they came in through the door, he sat up in his high chair and said just as clearly as could be, boys, boys, boys. They should have known, huh? That was a clue.
Oh, that's hilarious. So then, but you continued probably under the radar.
Right. Well,
right?
I learned very early to be ashamed of my feelings, and from the looks my father would give me when I expressed an interest in boys or asked questions about their bodies and that sort of thing. And so I grew up feeling terribly ashamed of this huge secret that I had. I couldn't stand that I was gay, and I did everything I could to change it. When I was 13, 14 years old, I was teased for having limp wrists, so I would wear rulers up my sleeves to try to keep my wrists stiff.
Wow.
Yeah, but this was the late 50s, early 60s. So
and you did that to yourself.
Yeah. There were no
try to fit in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I hated the way that I was bullied and teased, and it was always about being a fairy and a sissy. And somehow I knew they were right, but I still didn't want them to notice that.
Right. To highlight that, so to speak. And I know Tammy Faye came right out and said, so did you do anything with girls?
She did. She said, so have you ever had a sexual experience with a woman? And and I told her, no, I necked with one once, but I just knew that wasn't the path that God was leading me on. It just didn't feel right.
Right.
And I felt like it was disrespectful of the women to try and make a relationship happen.
Right. So, now let's just put this moose on the table. You just said that's not the path that God was leading me on. So there are some fundamental right-wing individuals that would just absolutely balk at you using that term.
Oh, sure.
So I think this is so important. If you're gay and you're not out of the closet or out, so to speak, I don't even like that expression, but it is common. So if you're afraid of that, I mean, even though there is more acceptance today than there was for you back in that time.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. But there still is that fight, I think, with, what is morally right. So speak to me and speak to any listeners who are still feeling that there's something wrong with them. And that's basically the core reason why I wanted to have you on, is I'm so tired of people thinking there's something wrong with them for their difference, whatever that difference is. Exactly. So speak to that about God, about, homosexuality being wrong, gay, trans,
LGBTQ+ being wrong. Please put that on the table as far as God and homosexuality and loving people who are gay, no matter what the Bible says. So please speak to that for me.
Okay. Well, I should say that I'm a pastor with the Metropolitan Community Churches denomination, MCC, and that is founded in 1968 as a safe place for LGBT people to worship God together. And so I learned through joining MCC in 1976 that God loves us just the way we are, and that God loves the way we love because God is love. And for God to condemn the love between two men or two women is for God to condemn God, because God is love and love is God. So the love that exists between same-sex couples is as sacred as the love that exists between heterosexual couples.
I absolutely agree with you. Yeah. And I also can hear some of the fundamentalists saying, but the Bible says, quoting scripture verse, that God is specific, that you should not be with same sex. So how do you address that?
Well, there are 6 passages that deal with same sex, with homosexuality, and at best it's a peripheral issue in the Bible. Jesus never says a word against homosexuality, not a word, and in the first letter of John it is written, God is love, and those who love know God. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the scripture that gives me the joy of knowing God as a gay man.
Yes, beautiful. And that is the bottom line. I absolutely 188% agree with you. And I stand by that. My daughters were very instrumental in educating me growing up about how important it is to value diversity. Some of their best friends, who are also known, they call me their Chinese mom. So they're my sons, and they are gay, and I love them, and I do know that is absolutely the truth. That God, there's nothing wrong with it, and I know this is Gay Pride Month, but it should be gay. Hopefully one day there's no need for that month, because it just is it is a non-issue. So other interesting things about your life. I know that let's see, you surviving the notorious Surroman trials. That sounds very interesting. Tell me about that.
Well, I was patient number 1 on the very first antiviral drug they tried against HIV in 1985, the same year as I did the Tammy Faye interview. And I had been diagnosed with 2 kinds of terminal cancer, stage 4 lymphoma and Kaposi sarcoma, as well as full-blown AIDS. And I was given 8 months to live. And that was in April of '84. So in 1985, when I survived those 8 months and appeared to be rather strong, they gave me the drug. I was the first patient on the drug.
Wow.
And within 6 weeks, the stage 4 lymphoma and Kaposi sarcoma completely disappeared. They went into complete remission. And unfortunately, the drug proved to be too toxic for further use. It was an experimental chemotherapy, and really rugged. It knocked out my adrenal glands. It killed it killed a lot of stuff in my body. And I went blind, and I was paralyzed on the left side of my body, all as a result of Suramin. So there were 90 people on the experiment, on the drug trial, and a number of them, a percentage of them, a large percentage, died, were killed by Suramin. And
wow.
they don't use it against HIV anymore.
Right, right. But you were one of the lucky ones where it worked. My dad also passed of lymphoma. He's on the other side. He fought that. But yeah, it was a brutal chemo, you know, and that's why a lot of people say sometimes it's just better to enjoy the quality of life, for sure. For sure. Now, you still have AIDS now. Are you still, yeah, are you like you should be in the Guinness World Book of Records, right? I mean, really, there's not many. Magic Johnson, right?
Well, but he wasn't diagnosed until 91, or he didn't announce it until 91 or 92. So I'm one of the longest surviving people with AIDS that we know of. I was first diagnosed in 82. And so I no doubt contracted the virus in the late 70s.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm doing very well today.
I mean, you seem like you're doing incredibly. Can I ask how young you are?
I am 68. I will be 69 in August.
That's beautiful. And your spirit is still the same. And I do want to show just a couple of minutes of the film. Harlan gave me permission to do that. So we're going to do that, and then I'll have you sort of comment on it.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and come on in. It's just so nice to have you here with us. We have an experience today that really is touching to me. Right here on my right, I have a young man named Steve Pieters, and I'd like to introduce you to Steve. And we're going to be back in just a couple of minutes to talk to Steve. Steve is a patient of AIDS, and he's so generously allowed us to talk to him today. And he was going to come to Charlotte, North Carolina to be in our program here, but he is presently taking chemotherapy, and I was afraid the trip would be too hard on him. And so we have a satellite hookup live from LA that we're going to be able to talk with Steve. I think the studio where Steve is about an hour and a half from his home, right? I know you must feel lonely sometimes, because with people not being well informed on AIDS, everyone is so terribly frightened of it, you know? And so therefore they're frightened of anyone who has it. Have you found this to be true, that people want to stay away and they're afraid to come up to you, and they're afraid to be anywhere in the same room or breathe the same air you breathe?
Yes, Tammy, that happens. And I was asked not to use the bathroom in one person's home. I remember going to a party once where every time I finished my soft drink, the host took the glass into the open kitchen, one of these California kitchens, you know, and steam cleaned it every single time. I've been served on paper plates a lot in the last year and a half. And yes, people are scared sometimes. They don't know how to deal with terminal illness. They don't know how to deal with something as stigmatized as AIDS. But I also have to say, Tammy, that there have been an enormous number of people in the gay and lesbian community, as well as at the AIDS Project and at MCC, who have gathered around me and really cared for me. They have been present because my quality of life has been at stake. So there are people who are breaking through that fear, who are not letting the fear get in the way of ministry.
You know, I just saw a program. My husband and I, Jim, sat the other night and watched the program. And it was so touching, about a young man who had AIDS and went home to tell his mom and dad about it, and the hurt and everything that happened in the family, which I'm sure, you know, you were very well aware of. And when asked what was the saddest thing in his life about the fact that he had AIDS, you know, his own parents were afraid to touch him. His own sister was afraid to touch him. And he said, to think that I might never again have a hug, you know, and how sad that we as Christians, who are to be the salt of the earth, and we who are supposed to be able to love everyone, are afraid so badly of an AIDS patient that we will not go up and put our arm around them and tell them that we care.
Yes. I know, it is tragic, and that's the tragedy of the situation.
I just want to tell you something.
What's that, Tammy?
If there would have been any way, you know, I know you were sick, and that's the only reason we didn't have you come and sit in the studio next to us today, because you had your chemotherapy treatments, and you needed to get home quickly so you wouldn't miss.
Well, I could watch that through the whole thing again. It's such an amazing interview. What do you feel when you watch that?
I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. I mean, on the one hand, I'm very proud of it and proud of the way it's been received through the years. But I remember back when I did it, I thought, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. And oh, why didn't I put it this way? And oh, if only I'd talked about this. And, you know, I came home from the interview thinking, I'm so glad that no one I know will ever see it.
Oops, not.
Yeah, not. But now I'm very proud of it, and I recognize it
as you should be.
Historic piece.
As you should be. You know, you're a perfectionist. That's why you have that little internal critic that keeps bashing you about that. But there's no, critic, just go sit down. You got to be tired. Exactly. That was a monumental interview, just really pioneering, groundbreaking. I have a new respect for Tammy Faye that I never had before. All I knew was this, she was this, you know, TV evangelist wife who was a little bit, you know, they used to have, I actually had a sweatshirt that had all kinds of colors on it. And it said, I just ran into Tammy Faye Baker. I mean, that's the extent that I had, but watching this interview, I was so impressed and impressed with you more because of your ability to describe both the trials and the relief and the rightness of accepting who you are exactly as you are, and knowing how loved, loving, and lovable you are to God, and by others. And for that reason, and then taking that message on the road, for that reason, I'm giving you the Dr. Marissa Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award.
So delightful. And if you would like to listen to the rest of my Spotlight interview with Steve, go to my YouTube channel, free subscribe. You'll get this show, all 533 past shows, along with my red carpet playlist with fabulous interviews on the red carpet with gold medal gymnasts, Lieutenant Uhura and Corey Feldman and Halle Berry and John Travolta and Quincy Jones and more. And for today's Asian Oprah giveaway, I'm giving away a session, a happy coaching session with me. So go to drmarissa.life, put in Asian Oprah giveaway, happy coaching, and the first person to do that will get a session. All right. Thanks again for tuning in today. To take my advice, I'm not using it. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa, the morning show. Come back tomorrow, 8 a.m. for your drive time and your happy hour. Literally. This is Dr. Marissa reminding you that it's all about balance. Peace in, peace out. World peace through inner peace. And have the best day ever.